Hey, my name's Dan, and I'm recovering from a few things, but tonight I'm going to talk about fear. Because I am afraid, and I've realized lately I've actually been afraid for a really long time. Whew, Vicky, I may cry, so it's not, we'll see. If it gets ugly, you can get a Kleenex. A few months ago, I was in a hockey arena, and one of the moms turned to me and she said one of the most profound things. I was watching my 5-year-old play hockey, and she said, "Life is a bit like a bookshelf." And on our bookshelves in our life, there's a lot of things, right? And some of the things we love and we want there, and some of the things we don't love, and they're just there. This mom and I were bonding because for both of us on our bookshelves is this big ugly thing called cancer. And she was talking to me about how, as a mom of young kids, she's realized that cancer is taking up too much space on her bookshelf. And it's crowding out and pushing out the things that she loves. She was like, I need to figure out how to live with this in a way that I don't lose everything that I love as I fight for life. This was so profound to me because when she said this to me, I realized that cancer takes up a ton of space on my bookshelf. And not only does it crowd out other things that I love, I think it's become a part of my identity. I was diagnosed with cancer 7 years ago, which is crazy. I was 31 years old, and I had just gotten married 2 years before. And I still remember my wife and we were on this trip in Chicago and celebrating the fact that she was pregnant, and I was shaving, and I felt this little bump on my salivary gland. It took them like 8 months to diagnose me with this really rare kind of cancer. And when I was diagnosed, my son was 3 months old. My little guy's never known life without a dad going through cancer. Over the years, I've had surgery on my neck and radiation. If you come close, you'll notice I only grow half a beard. So when that comes in style, I'm going to be like amazing. I've had, I should know, 2 or 3 surgeries on my lungs because my cancer started in my neck and it now is in my lungs. And during COVID, which was such a party for all of us, right? I found out that my cancer had returned to my lungs because each time they did surgery on my lungs, they were successful in taking everything out. Well, this time cancer's come back and it's in too many spots for them to remove it. If they did another surgery, I wouldn't have enough lung left to live. And the lovely news was also that that's the end of the treatment plan for my rare type of cancer. They starts in the neck, they take out the cells, and they give you lots of radiation. And then they wait for it to go in your lungs, and they kind of go in there and cut it out until they can't. And that's where we are. Now you know why I live with lots of fear. It raises the question for me, if cancer's become my identity, well, who am I? And I realized that for me, my higher power is Jesus. He has a lot to say about who I am. And a lot of those things are way more powerful than fear and a difficult diagnosis. And a lot of them I don't really believe. That I am loved, that I am treasured, and then my higher power is actually a higher power, right? Like sometimes we get into like these really hard spaces in life and we realize, well, my higher power is really small. This situation feels really big, and if he truly is a higher power, he must be bigger than this. I've been trying to live more and more into the reality of who I truly am. And I've been trying to think a lot about how, in one of the big books that I use, the Bible, it says the perfect love drives out fear. So Jesus, if you truly love me, how do I learn how to live without fear? It has been quite a journey for me to learn what it looks like to live without fear. But this image of the bookshelf is so helpful for me, because when my friend challenged me, she's like, think about what you want cancer to look like when you picture your bookshelf. So for her, it's like pretty, it's a vase. And she thinks about this vase and when she's going to pick it up and address it, and when it's just kind of there, and how much space it takes in her life. For me, when I picture, this may sound really funny, but when I picture my cancer in my life, it's the monster from Monsters, Inc., Sully, that big blue guy. And there's times in my life where he gets really big. And there's times where he's kind of this little stuffy that's just kind of hanging out on the bookshelf. And there's times when that little guy is like quite scary and fierce, and sometimes we're kind of friends and acquaintances, and it feels very fine to be together. I need to buy a stuffy for my bookshelf. I haven't done that yet. When I was talking to Jesus about this fear, he challenged me that he can actually help make this stuffy smaller. So I'm not actually in control of whether or not this stuffy ever leaves my bookshelf. That would be great. But probably scientifically, he'll one day just take over the whole bookshelf. And that will be the end of my story. But what I so appreciate is when I was praying about this and the fear, the image that I got, this is where I may cry, is my higher power wrapped his arms around the bookshelf. And I realized, I may not be able to control the stuffy and how big he gets and all the other beautiful things he may push off the bookshelf that I love. But at least I'm not responsible to keep the bookshelf upright. I have someone who's holding it for me, who's walking with me. And the things that are most important to me on my bookshelf are my two beautiful sons. And he has them too. And so in my recovery from fear, it's really helpful when you're not in charge of holding up your bookshelf. Because if you're anything like me, I'm likely to topple it over.